She stared at the screen, heart pounding. Watching lines of code she once wrote flash across a company demo. It wasn't her name on the slides, it was his. Her ex-boss. The same man who once praised her potential, then casually discarded her work and her job when she got too good. The same man now standing under stage lights, claiming credit for something she built from scratch in late-night sprints and coffee-fueled weekends. Her ideas, her logic, her code. Everyone told her to move on. Let it go. That's how the tech world works, they said. But something in her wouldn't settle. This wasn't just about ego or revenge, it was about value, ownership, and finally being seen for what she really was. Not just a coder, but a visionary. So instead of spiraling, she started rebuilding, piece by piece, line by line. Not just the stolen project, but something stronger, smarter, cleaner, and this time, it's fully hers. She worked in silence while the world clapped for him. No flashy posts, no big promises, just relentless focus. And when the time came, she launched. Not from a garage or a rented desk, but from her own platform. The product exploded. Startups noticed. Investors called. People asked, who built this? And suddenly, her name was everywhere his used to be. That's when the tables turned. What happened next wasn't just about a title or promotion. It rewrote the whole power dynamic in their industry. She didn't just catch up, she passed him, and not as a follower, but as a CTO steering her own ship. But just when she thought she'd left it all behind, a message popped up in her inbox, one that would force her to face the past and the man who once tried to erase her. The message was short, no greeting, no explanation. Just a subject line that read, "Can we talk?" And a signature she hadn't seen in over 2 years, Daniel Rothman, her former boss. The man who smiled through every stolen pitch and walked out of meetings as if he owned the future. Her hands froze on the keyboard. The office around her buzzed softly, engineers tapping away. Her new team, the one that looked to her for leadership, for answers. She couldn't afford to hesitate now. Back then, she was just another overlooked software engineer in a corner cubicle, fighting to be heard in a room that didn't care. She'd stayed late, not for praise, but because the product mattered too. Her every prototype she built was passed off as team effort. Every bug she fixed became his win in the next board meeting. She didn't even see it coming when she was cut loose. One reorg, and she was suddenly non-essential. But the code didn't disappear, resurfaced 6 months later. Rebranded under a shiny new app Daniel claimed he led from scratch. She had no proof. No access, just the sick feeling of watching your own work paraded around with someone else's name on it. And while she couldn't fight him directly back then, she quietly saved her notes, archived old commits, and mapped out her next move. Now, after launching a rival platform that had quickly gained traction and respect, she had taken a position no one expected, a young female CTO in an industry still run by the same old suits. And the irony wasn't lost on her. The man who once dismissed her now wanted to talk. Why now? Was he threatened? Was he trying to cover something up? Or was this just another setup dressed as opportunity? She hesitated, hovering over the reply button. She didn't reply that night. Instead, she sat by her window, the city lights, blinking like questions she couldn't answer yet. Part of her wanted to ignore him completely. But another part, the part that still remembered the sting of watching her own demo pitch used without credit, needed to know what he was up to. So she waited. And within 2 days, another message came, this time longer. He said he wanted to clear the air, to talk privately about a situation involving investors, IP claims, and something he referred to vaguely as a misalignment in records. It wasn't just guilt. It sounded like fear. behind the calm surface of her own company, tension had been growing too. One of her junior developers, Sarah, had recently flagged something strange: a series of code snippets from a third-party API integration that looked eerily similar to their original logic. Too close, and those APIs had ties to one of Daniel's partners. Her suspicion was right. It meant her rival wasn't just stealing her past, he might be quietly trying to reverse engineer her current platform to dot. And then there was the pressure from her board. Investors loved her product, but now that it was scaling, they wanted strategic collaboration, which, suspiciously, included interest from companies where Daniel still had connections. She didn't trust it, not after everything, but she also couldn't afford to shut out major opportunities just to protect her pride. Meanwhile, word had started to spread in the industry. People were comparing her tech to Daniel's. Startup forums speculated about a silent feud between the two platforms. Users were noticing that some updates from his app were mimicking features she just released. It was subtle, but it was happening. She was gaining traction. He was watching closely, and now he wanted to meet in person. Alone, and deep down, she knew this wasn't just about a conversation. It was about control. She agreed to the meeting, but only on her terms, neutral ground, a quiet cafe in the tech district where she'd once interviewed fresh out of school. It was poetic, in a way. She arrived early, took a corner seat, and watched the door with a calm expression that didn't match the storm in her chest. Every version of this meeting played in her mind. Him smug, him desperate, him pretending. Nothing ever happened. But she wasn't the same girl he pushed aside 2 years ago. She was the CTO now, the one people quoted, the one investors wanted to follow. He walked in like nothing had changed. Same confident stride, same tailored blazer. But this time, he didn't lead the room. He looked like someone trying not to lose grip. After a brief, awkward hello, he cut straight to it. "There's been a misunderstanding," he said, sliding a flash drive across the table. "It's about code ownership. Some metadata's missing from older builds. We might need your original timestamps, just to confirm things are clean." She didn't touch the drive. Her silence was sharper than any argument. Because she knew what he was doing. He was trying to backpedal, quietly fix what he knew was already wrong before anyone official caught it. If she handed over her archived commits, he could use them to rewrite the story, make it look like an honest mistake, erase his part in stealing her work. But that wasn't the worst part. That same morning, her legal advisor had sent a flagged alert there was a patent filing in progress, and it wasn't hers. The code structure, the core logic, even the UI flow. It was everything she'd rebuilt. Someone was trying to register her system as their own. Now she wasn't just facing betrayal, she was racing a clock. If the patent cleared, she could lose everything. And Daniel? He just kept sipping his coffee, as if none of it had happened. She kept her eyes on him, steady and unreadable, but inside her mind was spinning. The patent filing wasn't just aggressive, was strategic, and the timing wasn't random. Daniel had waited until just after her platform's beta success, right when press was picking up and major partnerships were approaching the negotiation table. If that patent cleared, not only would he own rights to the system she rebuilt from scratch, but any investor tied to her could be dragged into legal mess. Her entire roadmap could collapse. She finally spoke. "This isn't a misunderstanding, Daniel. You know exactly what you're doing." He didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in, lowering his voice. "Listen, we can avoid all this. Merge, quietly. You bring your team under my structure, we position it as a strategic acquisition. You'll still lead. Publicly, you'll be CTO, but we control the IP together." That was the real play. He didn't just want to fix the past, he wanted her future too. To wrap it into his legacy, polish it with spin, and turn her triumph into a footnote under his brand. She stood up, not saying another word, leaving the flash drive untouched. But as she walked out, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Sarah, her developer. Urgent. The message read, "You were right. I found something. Internal doc from Daniel's team. It mentions a leaked audit trail. There's more. Call me." She froze. A leaked audit trail. That meant someone from inside his system, maybe. Even his inner circle had been keeping track. Watching, maybe. Even regretting their part in what happened. But if that trail existed and could be proven, it wouldn't just stop the patent hit. Could expose everything. The stolen builds, the fabricated records, the manipulation. But it also meant someone close to Daniel was risking a lot to leak it. Now, she wasn't just in a tech war. She was holding a thread that could unravel it all, and someone else was pulling from the other side. She didn't wait. As soon as she got back to her office, she called Sarah. The moment her voice came through, it was quick. Urgent. She'd found a cached internal email chain between Daniel and one of his senior engineers. It referenced their effort to backdate code commits, manipulate original timestamps, and even plant metadata that aligned with a fake paper trail. But what stunned her most was a single forwarded attachment TAN, untouched audit export file from over a year ago, proving that her rebuild had existed months before Daniel's version ever went live. That was her weapon. Within hours, her legal team moved. They issued a cease and desist, attached with proof so detailed, so clear, that even Daniel's most loyal backers began to pull away. Calls she never expected started coming in, one from a journalist she'd once met at a startup. Mixer, another from a partner who had quietly dropped Daniel's app without saying why. The story was bubbling beneath the surface, and now, with evidence in hand, it was only a matter of time before it exploded. Daniel tried to fight it. His legal team filed a response, but it was hollow. The moment the original audit log was verified by a third-party tech expert, his case unraveled fast. The patent filing was pulled. Investors froze funding. And within a week, his platform was in full retreat. She stood in front of her team that Friday, not to celebrate, but to acknowledge what they'd survived. It wasn't just about the stolen code. It was about reclaiming her voice and proving that in tech, substance beats spin. But just when it all seemed settled, Sarah walked into her office holding a USB drive. "This wasn't in the files we gave legal," she said. "I didn't know whether to tell you. It's from a hidden folder. There's one line in the logs showing someone accessed your local dev environment. Not from Daniel's team, from inside ours." She blinked, stunned. Someone else had been watching her build the whole time, and they weren't done yet. For a moment, she didn't move. The idea that someone from her own team might have been leaking data felt like a fresh betrayal. But this time, she approached it differently. No panic, no rush to accuse. Instead, she called a quiet internal review and limited it to just 2 trusted engineers. Within days, they found the source, a junior contractor working remotely, who had unknowingly installed compromised software during a freelance side gig. It wasn't sabotage, it was negligence, rooted in inexperience and poor security hygiene. Still serious, but fixable. Rather than fire him, she brought him in and made it a learning moment for the whole team. From that point on, security wasn't just a checklist to become core to their development culture. It was a risk that could have unraveled everything, but she handled it like a leader. Quietly, decisively. Meanwhile, Daniel faded into silence. His reputation never recovered. The last update anyone heard was that he'd stepped away from tech completely. Some said he moved into consulting. Others said he disappeared. But she didn't care anymore. Her focus had shifted. With her platform now fully secure and trusted, she led the next product launch confidently. The user base grew fast, And this time, no one questioned where the innovation came from. She was no longer in the shadows of anyone else's name. She had built her own story, clean, resilient, and entirely hers. Her journey was never just about becoming a CTO. It was about taking back what was stolen and proving that integrity, persistence, and vision win in the long game. She didn't just rebuild the code they stole, she rewrote the rules. And in doing so, she didn't just outrank her ex-boss. She left him in a world she had already outgrown.